G'day guys, Socket here. Today's video is going to be on cables. Well, specifically cables that we use for car audio. And if you're new to the car audio, there's a bunch of terms like XLR and RCA and male, female, and a whole bunch of stuff relating to cables that might be a bit confusing. So I thought I'd do a quick video to clear up some of that stuff. So stick around and let's have a look at some cables. Okay, well, let's start off with a pretty simple concept to start with, and that is the concept of male and female connectors. So this is a male connector and this is a female connector, and I'll leave you to figure out why they're named like that. But when you are ordering or looking at cables, you need to make sure that you specify whether you need a male or female connector. Right, the second concept is cable length. So here we have a 1 meter cable, here we have a 3 meter cable, and clearly if you're purchasing a cable, you need to be mindful of ordering the right cable length. So for example, if you're sitting in your car and you're using a microphone to do a moving mic measurement method, you probably want a cable that's 1 meter long. So you haven't got a bunch of cable flapping around. But if you've got your microphone set up at the headrest and you're trying to plug into your laptop, which might be outside the car, then you probably want something like a 3 meter cable. But once again, just be mindful of that when you're ordering cables online to select the right length. Okay, we'll now move on to connection types, and starting off with probably the most simplest connection, which is the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack connector, they're commonly called, because that's typically where you find this type of connection. So this is the male version and this is the female version. Okay, moving on up, so the big brother to the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack is this 1/4 inch or 6.3 mil jack. Very common. It comes in both, once again, male and female plugs, but it also comes in two versions. It comes in a stereo version, which you can tell by this two bands on the shaft, or a mono version with one band on the shaft. So this is for stereo playback, this will be for mono playback. So this is commonly called a 1/4 inch TRS, and this is commonly called a 1/4 inch TS. So once again, if you're online and you're looking at buying some of these, just be careful whether you're buying the stereo or mono version of this 1/4 inch jack. The next type of plug I want to talk about is what we call the RCA. These are commonly plugs that will go into the back of your DSP if you're running an analog signal. They can come in pairs, they can come in singles. Essentially you have the positive on the middle shaft and the negative on the outer ring from memory. They come in, once again, male and female versions of RCAs. But yeah, that's the RCA plug. Very common. Okay, the next cable we want to have a look at is the optical cable, sometimes called a digital cable or a Toslink cable. They go by several different names. It has a fiber optic core which terminates on that gold connector, and a, if I can get that in focus, a D-shape plug that fits into this optical in or out plug, which is the female version of the optical cable. Yeah, so that's what you use when you're going to connect up a digital player, a digital player or some other digital source to your optical in on your DSP. Okay, the last connection type I want to talk about is the XLR connector. So if you're in the music industry or you're a muso or anything like that, you've probably seen these before. In car audio, we use them to connect up to a analog microphone or into our audio interface for when we're doing sweeps and things like that. They once again come in male and female versions. Right, another term or type of cable that you might bump into is called a splitter cable or a Y cable. Basically, it's where you have one input that runs and splits into two outputs. So this is helpful for when you're doing a loopback device or something like that, or if you want to take one signal and feed that same signal to two different channels, such as the left and right. All right, there are a couple of cables that I'd like to make special mention of, particularly if you're using just a USB mic to do your car audio tuning. And therefore you'll need a USB plug for that goes into the back of your microphone to a standard USB plug that'll plug straight into your laptop. So that will depend on what type of USB microphone connector that you have. In this case, mine is a USB-C. So the second type of plug that might come in handy for car audio guys is what I call a USB extension cable. So it's essentially a USB female plug that can be plugged onto the end of the USB male plug to give you a bit of extra length. And these are particularly helpful when you are trying to extend your USB cable maybe from your DSP, which is in the back of your car, to plug into your laptop, which may be in your lap in the driver's seat, right? So quite often 2-meter USB cables are common or whatever, but so you might find these USB extension cables come in handy. And just one final special mention. So if you are using an audio interface, you will probably need a connection from your audio interface device to your laptop, which is usually called a USB connection. They're pretty standard, so you have this USB plug that goes into the back of your audio interface, and then of course your standard old USB plug that goes into your laptop. But they come in two different styles as well. You have a straight plug, or you can get these 90-degree plugs. So just keep that in mind when you're ordering your USB connection cables. While we're on the topic of audio interfaces, some of them, like the Behringer, have these XLR 1/4 inch input connectors. The way they work is you can either plug an XLR into them, or you can plug the 1/4 inch jack into them. They take either plug. So another concept that you might come across when you're looking at car audio cables is a concept called unbalanced versus balanced cables. Now, what that's all about is long lengths of cable can actually act like an antenna and pick up interference. So in those circumstances, people will use what they call balanced cables, which have 3 wires, 2 signal cables and a ground wire, compared to an unbalanced cable that only has 2 wires, 1 signal and 1 ground. And so it's all to do with, as I said, picking up noise and interference and polarity flipping and a whole bunch of sciencey stuff. But the balanced cable ensures that you've got a clean signal over long distances. But for us in car audio, it really doesn't matter, because we're only using cables that are a couple of meters in length. So, the lengths aren't long enough to really pick up interference, so it really doesn't matter whether we're using balanced or unbalanced cable. And if you use a balanced cable in a device for an unbalanced cable, it doesn't matter. It won't make any difference whatsoever. So unless you're working with cables that are longer than 6 meters in length, that's what balanced and unbalanced means, but for us it really doesn't apply. All right, so now that we've looked at all the different types of cables and connectors and terminology that's used, Why have I got so many cables? And the answer to that is, I order something on Amazon, and when I get it, it's like, oh, it's the wrong plug. So you've really got to be careful to use the right terms when you're doing a search, and to double check it when you're ordering to make sure you're getting the cable that you really need. So let me take you through some examples. So this would be a 1/4 inch male to male. I think it's 1 meter or something like that, but because I need the stereo version of it, I'm looking for a male to male TRS. So it's got 2 stereo plugs on that, right? Whereas if I wanted the mono version of that, then it's also a 1/4 inch or 6.3 millimeter jack but it's only a TS. It's not a TRS, it's a TS, meaning the mono version. And this one is a 3 meter cable. So male to male, 1/4 inch TS 3 meter cable, right? If I sort of move along and I want a 1/4 inch or 6.3 millimeter to a 3.5 headphone jack, then I've got, a male to male 1/4 inch to 3.5 millimeter, 5 meter cable. Moving along, if for example I'm looking at this particular plug, I've got a 1/4 inch male to RCA male, 5 meter cable. Or this one here is a 3.5 millimeter to dual or 2 male RCAs, 5 meters in length. If I use another example, this would be a RCA splitter, so RCA female to dual males, Y cable or splitter. And probably I'll just use one more example. So for example, this would be a 6.3 or 1/4 inch male to dual 6.3 1/4 inch female, Y cable or splitter. So you can see how using the terms, the connector name, male and female, stereo or mono where it applies, and the cable length, you've got a much better chance of ordering what you want. And finally, if all else fails, you can always use an adapter or a connector. So for example, I've ordered the wrong thing. I wanted a 1/4 inch on the end of this 1/4 inch to 1/4 inch connector, and I've ordered the wrong one. I got a 3.5 mil instead of a 1/4 inch. Well, you can always get a 3.5 mil to 6.3 or 1/4 inch and just connect it up, and so all is not lost. So look, I hope that was helpful. We're going to go into connecting up some of our audio interfaces and plugging all of these wires in and showing you how to set up audio interfaces to do loopbacks and measurements, and probably cover that in the next episode. So once again, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys soon.